People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. All right, gang, here we go. We have a great conversation today. I'm excited for our guest, Melissa Shanahan from Velocity Work, and we are talking about build the firm that gives you the life you want. And I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing, and I have been for many, many years now, I hear from attorneys all the time. They want the work-life balance. They want their time back. They want their freedom. And of course, master marketers take advantage of that, and all the marketing out there talking about get the practice of your dreams, get the life that you want back, have the work-life balance, all of these things. And you all know that, but I am excited to have a national expert here with us to really break that down for us, to talk about what it means to build the firm that gives you the life you want. So Melissa, thank you for being our guest today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be on your
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, you have a wonderful podcast as well. Tell our listeners a little bit about you, what you do, your podcast, and let's kick off with your backstory and what brought you to the legal space.
Yeah. Well, my company is Velocity Work, and our podcast is the Law Firm Owner Podcast. We've been doing it just at 3 years, which is nuts. You've had yours longer than
Congrats.
that, I think.
Oh,
Haven't you?
no, a little
Oh,
over 3.5. Yep.
okay. So yeah. And we are a company that hosts quarterly strategic planning for law firm owners and provide accountability and coaching in between those retreats. And so I could say more about that in a moment, but my background is I'm a double certified coach. I've been a coach since 2008. I eventually worked for a consulting firm that did all kinds of coaching and consulting for dentists and doctors that had private practices. So my job was to fly constantly, full-time travel to these different offices and go in and do 1 to 2 days, spend 1 to 2 days with each client and get them straight within a certain topic. My favorite topic and the thing that I loved, that I hosted the most, was strategic planning retreats. And so there were quarterly strategic planning retreats where we would walk into the office and we would help them get really organized and create a great plan for their quarter. Then you come back quarter to quarter. What I learned through that experience was that, you'd walk back into these offices and it's time to reconcile, like, okay, where did we land? And
I know where this is headed.
yeah. And it was like, wait, what? You had these amazing plans that were doable. And it wasn't to scold them. It was just like confusion on why
Sure.
haven't you made the headway that you could have made? I was like, what is happening? But truthfully, what is happening was that they get busy. Life happens, the chaos of the schedule and all the things that come with running a business tend to push out the important but not urgent stuff. And so then I'm coming back in, and maybe they'd be scrambling right before I walk back in, a couple of weeks before I come, but it's too late. They're not going to recover the work that they should have done. And, after working at that firm for long enough, and just the way that the model was built there and the limitations of my role there, I realized there was a better way to work with business owners to help them get what I call the velocity towards where they're going. And so eventually went out on my own, and at first just did this work for small business in general, but I had one law firm owner who signed up with me at the very beginning, and it was like, oh, this translates. This is like, it feels so similar from the world that I came from. And so I ran with it and started working with just law firm owners and haven't looked back. I love working with law firm owners on this stuff.
And I bet, talk to me because I'm always curious about what's the difference between a dental practice, a medical
Mm.
practice, a law practice, and how they
Yeah.
think and operate and run their practice. Do you see any difference?
Oh
And
yeah. I mean, I do. I see a lot of similarity, probably
yeah,
more similarities than differences, but the main differences, and people don't really realize this, doctors and dentists have to go from gloves on to gloves off mentality, which is similar to working on client files and working on the business, but it's a level deeper. It's not just working on a client file. You are hands in the mouth, saliva, fluids, like gloves on. It's like a different world that you're immersed in, and it brings an element of complexity
yeah,
to as an owner that it doesn't otherwise. And then the other thing is space and equipment, how expensive it is. And that's a whole thing that I don't have to do with law firm owners, but that was a whole section of strategic planning with space and equipment and budgeting and how much are, all of that, because the chairs and new x-ray
oh
machine and
yeah,
like all that stuff. So that's just not a thing that, I mean, there's still space and equipment to some extent for law firm owners, but not at that level. So I actually think that lawyers are better suited and can fly faster with the work that we do than doctors and dentists. It took them longer. There was a harder learning curve. I think the way that lawyers think is actually can be useful for strategic planning and following through on plans. There's a lot that works against us, as business owners generally, but I do I find that so many law firm owners I work with are just ripe for the work. They just needed some guidance.
guidance. And what I'm hearing from you is that accountability piece, right? I
Mhm.
mean, how critical. I'll give you an example. I have my coach that I work with, and I'm so completely frustrated. And every week I'm like, I'm ditching, I do my morning walk. You and I talk about that. We
Uh-huh.
used to often boxer back and forth at 5:30 in the
Yes.
morning on our walks. And just a sidebar note, which I'm going to give you and I a massive shout out and congratulations. Melissa and I both just got accepted to EO, and we're in the
Yes.
accelerator. And about 2 weeks ago we kicked off our first retreat day for our
Yes.
year-long program, and that was all on
It was,
cash, which was like a
yeah.
gut punch to me. I
It was
remember I'm
so
looking at you, I'm like, I'm so depressed, I don't have my profit first set up and whatever. You're like, calm down, you made it in the room, it's okay.
that's so true. Yes. Heck yeah. It was
Yeah,
so fun to be able to spend that day with you learning, just
yes.
getting to sit next to you. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so awesome. But my coach every Friday morning, 7 a.m., have my call and constantly talking about my morning routine on the health side,
Mm.
do my hot yoga, do my morning walk. But the one thing I wanted so bad in my life is really working on weight training, and constantly. And I thought of you because he said to me, not this past Friday, the Friday before, he's like, I'm so sick of hearing you talk about this. Here's the deal. And he used to swim with Michael Phelps. He's in the UK. So he's a
Mm.
high peak performance athlete. And he goes,
Yeah.
here's the deal. I'm going to pull what my coach did for me during when I was exhausted and didn't want to do my training days. He goes, you are to do something for 30 minutes with weights every single day for the next 7 days. You are to
Mm.
message me every morning, tell me what time you're going to do it, and you are to
Uh-huh.
send me a message. If you do not do it, if you miss one day, I have your credit card on file, and I'm sending you an authorization form right now. You're signing it in the chat room that I can charge your credit card $1,000, and I'm canceling the rest of our calls for the month.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Did not miss one day. Did not
Maybe I
miss one
should pull
day.
that with my clients. That's so
I know,
great.
but I thought of you because it's, to your point, it's a difference of the accountability that it
Mhm.
makes. Like, So talk to us a little bit about, Melissa, and your experience with the firms that you work with. What, when they come to you, and I know you have a mastery program, we'll talk about that at the end. And,
Mm.
it's mastery, build the firm that gives you the life you want. Talk to us about what you hear from law firms. Like, what is it really truly when they come into you that they say that they want in their
Yeah.
practice?
Yeah. Um, they they know this. We kind of talked about this before we pushed record,
Yeah.
but the way you summed it up was great. They know that they want to work less hours. They know that they want more freedom. They know that they would typically like more money. And, you know, everyone starts their firm with this idea of what that could be and provide for them. And what they find themselves in is they've created a more demanding job for themselves on some level than maybe going to work for someone else. And so I think they are kind of looking for a way to feel organized, less chaos, in control of the results that are being created. Um, like a good business owner. I think some of them think they're doing okay, but they wouldn't consider themselves excellent business owners. And so I think there's just and I would say most people that come they want to optimize. Like life is okay, right? Like what I've built here is okay. It could be better. I do not have the time to give my brain to figure out how to get it better.
Hmm.
Most people that come to me aren't in suffer city. It's more just they just know that they can expect more from themselves, but they don't really know how to get on track for that. And so I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah,
I'm trying
I love it because I agree with you wholeheartedly. They know that they want more money, paycheck, not resenting paying everyone else, and there's nothing left for them. They want profit. They want,
Mhm.
a greatest definition. And I say this all the time in my podcast, and my listeners are sick of hearing it, but the greatest definition I've ever heard of anxiety is lack of information. So they
Mm.
know that there's this like bubble up effect of,
Mhm.
we're not in suffer city. I love that. We are doing okay, but ah, how do I know the other shoe is not going to drop?
Mhm.
How do I know, if an employee quits or they have to fire a key revenue producer or key production person or client chief happiness officer, whatever it might be, that the whole thing's not coming crumbling down, that I can go on a vacation and not return to a parking lot of ashes because the whole thing just crumbled when I left.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and you and I were talking about this in my experience, and I said this kind of tongue in cheek, but I think it's all out there, have this work life balance, the practice of your dreams, double your revenue, this, double your blah, 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 10x this, 10x that, all the marketing initiatives that we all are like, yes, 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 please, please, please. And to your point, you get in the room, you have the Tony Robbins moment, you are going to walk on fire, you're going to conquer the world. And then you come back 90 days later and they're like, oh, they see you on their
Yeah.
calendar and they're like, shit, what
Yeah.
strategic, where's that strategic plan? Like, we got it, Melissa's coming, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know what? I didn't really think of it like this till you just said that, like the Tony Robbins moment, walk on fire, because the way that the firm was set up that where I was, I didn't have contact in between. I was just sent. I would like my flight was purchased. So when it was time to go back, I'd be scheduled to go back. So I would have to look at all my notes that I took from last time. I had to do like long reports after I would leave every office, look at all my reports and see what other communication they had with the firm. And as I would look at all that, I'm like, sweet. Like, you had this over time. I was not so naive to think that I wasn't that enthusiastic. I would be like, well, we'll see when I walk back in. But initially I would read the reports. I'm like, okay, sweet. This was their goal. This is who they were going to hire. These are the average revenues they were going to bump. This is like all the stuff. Go back in and it's like crickets. And my enthusiasm for them, because I just read the thing that they said they were going to do, it's like gone out of them and they feel defeated and deflated. And so then you have to spend a portion of the day being like, okay, guys, let's push the reset button. And you like just morale, you have to shift and then you make plans again. And when you go quarter over quarter, having to like pick yourself back up after you just let yourself down. And there's a bunch of judgment that people have on themselves
Yes.
typically. And it's just so unnecessary. Then you have to like work to remove all of that so they can start clean. And then it's another cycle. And quarter over quarter, this will wear a firm down or a practice
Yes.
down. And to the point where you just kind of feel like, whatever, like I'm just doing the best I can here. And then you just kind of resolve yourself to this mediocre version of what you really had envisioned. But because you just can't quite get the thing. So
Yes.
that's why I do think I'm glad you did bring up accountability specifically. It matters in between.
Oh,
Accountability matters. I don't know if you know who David Goggins is. I love that book that he wrote, Can't Hurt Me.
yes. I have it on
Okay.
Audible.
Yes. The
And
Audible
he's from
version
my
is the best.
hometown, Buffalo, New York.
Oh my. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love that book and I love him, but we are all not him. We are all like, it's okay to need and to want accountability. And the faster that you will sign yourself up for that, the faster you'll move. And instead of just waiting, like, I think people feel like they should be able to do this on their own. They should be able to stay on course. And that is a load of crap, because really, as many different hats as you wear and all the different things that you have going on, no, you have a human brain. You shouldn't actually be super focused without some form of surrounding or
Right.
accountability or community that's all kind of like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. Because you can forget in between. And of course you forget in between. You have very important things that you're handling. So I think it's sort of I don't know the right word, not naive, maybe naive is the right word, to think that you're going to make these grand plans and go crush it and be at the end of the quarter and be like, yeah, next, without some sort of coach accountability in place. And the way I'm talking about it is like, there's He-Man or She-Woman, but that's not necessarily the vibe it has to be. But really, most people let themselves down quarter after quarter without someone whose job it is to help you keep this top of mind. That's
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love so much. I'm just like bobbing and weaving in my Zoom frame here because I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to say about that. But you said without a coach or an or some kind of accountability, I would even lobby really, really hard for. There's a very big difference between a coach, because I think a lot of people will hire a coach and get a lot of like, rah rah,
Yeah.
cheerleader, you got this, it's okay, what have you. And not that you're going to show up like a she woman and weaponize them and beat them up, but as you're explaining the cycle, and
Mhm.
everybody listening to this, team members, entrepreneurs, attorneys alike, CEOs are shaking their head and saying, yes,
Mhm.
how do we break this vicious cycle of signing up for all these strategic planning retreats in whatever fashion? Somebody comes on the plane,
Mhm.
they come to you, it's in a Zoom room, it's in a leverage, ballroom at, Game Changer Summit or whatever it is. And then you have your plan, and then leaving and having it just be vaporware, and then
Mhm.
realizing, around 80 or something, you have that anxiety bubbling up. You're like, why am I feeling anxious? You look at your calendar, you're like, oh, that's
Mhm.
right. I don't know if we did anything, blah, blah, blah. And then you drag your entire team through it. And I don't mean drag because it's not intentional, but there's a vast difference between that accountability, because quarter after quarter, like you said, you come in, you're deflated, you're doing your best. You're not deflated at them, you're deflated for them. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh God, like, and you're seeing this in firms all over the world, all over the country, of that you're going in and you saw the pattern and you saw the
Mhm.
need and you saw it needed to get fixed. But then your team, they get so incredibly deflated, and then with themselves, with the firm, with the vision, and then they resent having to go to these quarterly events because they're like, all right, this can be
What's the
another event
point?
that we do, and we put it on the shelf and we don't do anything, not from as a place of shame and blame, but they're like you, where they're scratching their head and they believe, well, this is just the cycle.
Mhm.
Or we do have a coach that is she woman, he woman, he man, whatever it is. And they come in and beat the hell out of you because you didn't do
Mhm.
anything, which isn't helpful. And I hear this from attorneys all the time. Oh, we had a coach in the past, but you know, whatever they told us to do never worked. And then we'd meet with them every quarter, and then they would just beat us up for not doing it. So the process is broken. And I think
Mhm.
I really want to really, truly, I'm not blowing smoke at all. I want to just really commend you for figuring
Mm.
out the breakdown and your
Mm.
unwavering stand for finding this solution, because accountability, gosh, I tell my clients this all the time. This is the best definition of accountability I could come up with. You do not get your mortgage statement that says pay when you want. You have a date on that. If it's not paid
Mhm.
on the first, there's a consequence. There's, if it's not paid by the 16th or 15th mid-month, there's a serious consequence. And what bill do people pay first and foremost every single
Mhm.
month? Because there's accountability and
Mhm.
consequence attached to it. And when I
Yeah.
say that a lot of times to my clients, I'm like, you have to get, because they'll beat themselves up. They'll put quarterly retreats on their calendar, then everybody cancels them because there's no agenda, there's no intentionality to it, there's no purpose, there's no framework, there's no prep work before, there's no follow-up after. And so they do one of two things: consistently move them, one of three things: consistently move them, cancel them because we're too busy with client work, what have you. And of course, who comes first in the business world? The client. Or three, they're like, crap, let's just do it. And next thing you know, they're at Dave and Buster's drinking beer and bowling and not doing anything and calling it a strategic retreat when it was actually still purposeful. But let's call it what it was. It was a team building event.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. The team building event thing. Like sometimes I'll see people, I'm going to take my team on a retreat to, Hawaii or whatever, something fun. It's like, or even something local, Dave and Buster's. And um that is a culture event for you. That is not a planning retreat. And if you are planning, that's light planning. I
Yes.
really but I think people, and it's a good thing to do, but it shouldn't replace like serious, well thought out, deliberate planning for the quarter. Specific, the next 90 days in front of you is just the easiest way to go about it. And I, it just, the missed opportunity there, and it's easy to pat yourself on the back like I'm doing this. That's great. You're missing though an opportunity here to use your team as a part of the build, as a part of the achievement for the firm.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
goodness. And
um,
go ahead.
there's so many things that came to mind as you were talking. One is just the cycle, quarter over quarter. There's something we teach called results cycle inside of velocity work. And it talks about low results cycle. People are either in a low result cycle or a high result cycle. You're not in the middle, you're in one or the other. And the feeling states associated with the low results cycle is confused, deflated, uncertain, frustrated, like just all the stuff, that the anxiety that's just swimming. Um, and the actions look a lot like um switching focus. Like they kind of get lost in something and they'll switch focus again, having to get team members on board again for something that, like, it's like a pattern. You have to win
Yeah.
people over on your idea because you just never follow through. It's harder and harder as time goes on. um just not, it's not action that will lead to results. It's just spinning, but you're kind of lost in it. But then there's a high result cycle, which the type of action that usually stems from that is planning, is
Mm.
execution, is spending time with reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, the stuff that matters, the stuff that will fuel and push you in the direction that you want to go. And the feeling states there are usually not always good. It's not positive poly in the high results cycle. Because usually when you're really moving and you're really creating results, there's its own set of anxieties that comes with that. Like things move. So you feel the momentum of being in a high results cycle. And that can be scary sometimes, but you spend time delegating really well. Um, you you do sit down and make a plan, you honor your plans, you have accountability, you have productive team meetings, you don't waste time, you get a lot clearer about your boundaries with your time. It's like everything is clicked in a way that pushes you in the right direction. And we're all human, so we all spend time in both, but more spent figuring out ways to put yourself in this diagram of a high result cycle. Quarterly strategic planning is a way to do that. Like it's like a reset button to help you kind of keep spiraling upwards instead of spinning.
Oh my goodness. Melissa, can I please have you back? I'm not, no joke. Would you be able to do a podcast just on this one concept? Because when
Oh,
you said
sure.
low result cycle and high result cycle, oh my God, that deserves its whole separate episode. And
Yeah,
in
yeah,
fact,
totally.
let's when we're done here, we're going to schedule it and we're going to put it pretty close back to back to this so you
Oh,
guys don't
cool.
disconnect with this conversation. Stay in the conversation because, and I know we're getting close to time here, but Melissa, tell us about like really truly tell our listeners, because you and I share many mutual clients and part
Mm-hmm.
of their planning involves hiring, and I'm deeply,
Mm-hmm.
deeply grateful that you send them my way. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a vast difference between the clients that you send to me for their hiring needs and people that come off the street, if you will, that I meet, the clarity on what they
Mm-hmm.
want and how it impacts their overall vision and the happiness and the joy that your clients have to write a check for these employees. They don't come to me and say, I can only pay them this, or I went to
Mm-hmm.
salary.com and this is what they should get paid, or what have you. They come to me and say, this is the value of this position. This is what I need them to do. Here's the KPIs, and I'm willing to pay whatever it takes because this is so critical to me reaching my goals between this quarter. And sometimes they're like, this needs to help before my next strategically. I'm like, yes, because you're so clear on it. So talk
Mm-hmm.
to us about your model.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Okay.
and because my understanding is they come to you and you hold an event, and I think works. There's so much to be said about getting out of your office and getting out of
Mm-hmm.
your own perspective and all the
Yeah.
distraction.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful if I kind of explain I said, and this is true, we do quarterly strategic planning with accountability and coaching in between. But the reason that we do that is because something I got really clear on a long time ago, partially because of all the stuff we just been talking about, what I noticed was that there's three parts to success. And what the first is you have to know what you're aiming for. If you don't know what you're aiming for, you cannot make a plan. This is like getting in your car and you want the GPS to tell you to go somewhere, but you aren't putting a pin in the map. Like, what do you want to create? You need to have a goal it's a number. And you can have more than one goal, but one goal. Once you know what you're aiming for, there's all kinds of things that have to line up in order for you to get to that goal. That's where strategic planning comes in. So the next thing, so you have to know what you're aiming for. The next thing is you have to make a well thought out, deliberate plan. Once you have a plan, your job is to honor the plan. If one of these three things is missing, you can bank on wasting time. And
Mm.
so it's not about hurrying, it's about getting there without undue delay, So just why would we want to spin? Why not just have a streamlined experience there? So that's the whole company, whether I work with private clients or whether I work with Mastery Group, which is our group, they all are operating under this framework. You have to know what you're aiming for, you have to make a plan, and you have to honor your plan. Now, with clients, we take care of number one and number two. We help them decide like what they're aiming for and make a strategic plan to get there. And their job, with the help of me and the way that the company is set up, is like between retreats is honoring the plan, which is the part that many people get tripped up on because they're busy, et cetera. So for private clients, which a lot of the private clients are the ones that work with you, those are our mutual clients. They are at a level in their firm where they make the decision to come to our offices and get in a room for 1 day, sometimes 2 days, depending on where they are on their track, and bring team with them. So it's not just the owners,
Yes.
there's leadership involved so that they aren't just carrying it as owners on their back. And sometimes it's just one additional person with the owners or owner, right? So it doesn't have to be this huge team, but someone other than just the owner has to be. If you're going to be in a room for all day, I will not do it with just an owner. That's just not that's just setting the firm up for failure. Like sending all the information, all the plans back with the owner to disseminate among people. No. So they have to have team. So when they come, they get in a room, they make a great plan, and deciding on who and why, when they need to hire is part of the plan. So then it makes it super easy, because then it's like, yep, that's, that might be a rock, is hiring somebody, which is a quarterly effort that they're going to commit to in order to take themselves to the numbers that they want to get to. But that rock is really, there is time involved, but when they come to you, it's like, it goes so much faster, so much smoother, so much better to get a right fit in the firm and hit the ground running instead of searching all quarter and doing a mediocre job of searching all quarter. They could just come to you and you help plug the fit, and it keeps things rolling.
Yes.
So that's the private clients. And then Mastery Group is, it is still quarterly strategic planning with coaching and accountability in between, but those retreats are typically virtual. And there's a group right now, there's about 40 members in the group, and we're growing, which is really exciting. And finding ways, it's my company's job right now to find ways to keep accountability tight as we grow. And so we're doing that, and kind of making cohorts and things like that. But all those members are on the hook. They submit their rocks, which are the quarterly efforts, the things that they're supposed to do that quarter and get done so that they're on track for their goals. They submit those efforts to us, and we have a tracker, and they report in between retreats, the status of each one. It's a couple times a month they do this. And are they on track or off track? And then we have discussion about, okay, if you find yourself off track, these are the questions to ask yourself. What's one thing you can do to move the needle just a bit today? And those little things get them back on track. So it's like a touchstone for them to stay committed to the things that they said were important to get done over the quarter, that are not easy because you do have a lot of other hats to wear. But it's possible if you plan well and you have accountability and you have the coaching comes in, you can, I spot it because I got it. I can see where they're in their own way. And so it's like, wait, why are you assuming that? Or why are you thinking of it that way? And just having them question their own brain helps them to stay on track. So, that's pretty high level. I don't know if you want nuts and bolts, but that's the gist of the two different types of clients we have.
Tell us about the Mastery program and when your next one kicks off, and talk to us about getting involved in that.
So Mastery Group, we open enrollment once a quarter, and it's usually about a month before the actual strategic planning day that we host for people, so they can get onboarded and find their footing. There's some concepts they need to be familiar with so that they don't feel like they're drinking from a fire hose that first day. And so towards the end of August, we're opening up enrollment. It's actually going to be on the 17th for the people who are on the wait list, and it'll be on the 19th for those who aren't. Okay. And we're taking about 20 spots this round. So if the wait list fills those 20, we're done. If it doesn't, then we'll open up to the public. And those people, we have just revamped the member area and onboarding to be so much more hands-on and helpful. So we're really excited about this round opening up. So yeah, people will come in. There's a new member welcome call on September 1st. And so you have to be enrolled by the 24th of August. And then September 1st, we have a new member call. And then we have a beginner KPI tracking call just to make sure everybody's kind of found their footing with what they need to be looking at from a numbers perspective to feel like they're really getting the most out of the strategic planning day. Yeah, we just get them warmed up. They can come to coaching calls, they can learn processes, things like that. So yeah, it opens up this month and we're really excited. We've made some huge improvements and based on member feedback, and yeah, we're really pumped.
Thank you. Thank you for creating this. There's, as you know, you've done a tremendous amount of research and you found the need, you found the blind spots, and thank you for finding this solution
Oh my
for
gosh.
that. Tell our
My
listeners
pleasure.
how they can get a hold of you, how they can find out more information about the
Yeah.
mastery group and your podcast and all that good stuff. And of course, we'll put
Yeah.
everything in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah. If you go to velocitywork.com/join, that'll give you the information for the next enrollment window for mastery group. So even if you're listening to this 6 months later, there's still going to be an enrollment window coming. So you can get on the wait list there for the enrollment window. And our podcast is the Law Firm Owner Podcast. We have a lot of fun there. Molly's been on a couple times, which has been super great. Yeah, that's the best way to work with me. We only have a select few private clients, and they're usually those who've started a mastery group and grown, and they're at the level where they want that private client work. So my suggestion is to get involved there if you want to start doing strategic planning and have some accountability for it in between and be guided. One more thing I want to say. It's kind of intimidating to think about strategic planning. It sounds really nice, but people are like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't really want to be in front of people. My numbers are not as high as other people's. And there's a lot of compare and despair that can happen in a group setting, and it's vulnerable. But listen, that's my job. My job is to facilitate strategic planning. You have a workbook, you have me, you have others contributing their answers in the chat. It's a really cool, cohesive day that's so helpful for you nailing down exactly what you're aiming for and exactly what you're going to commit to doing so that you're on track for those things. So you don't have to know how to strategically plan. You don't have to do a bunch of prep work. We guide you. We facilitate the process. So I say that because it seems like people wait to join because they're intimidated by, they don't know if they're ready. Listen, if you have an established business, you're ready. I don't
Yes.
100K and up, like you can get something out of planning. So come and hang.
Oh, I love that. You're ready.
Yeah.
That's great. And if you're ready to take your business from a place of a hobby to a true business, I highly recommend you join Melissa and her group. Oh, Melissa, thank you. And I'm not kidding. We are having this next podcast. I love the topic about the low results cycle versus high results cycle. I know many people.
Fun.
It'd be really cool for you to take us through an exercise too on that.
Oh, cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Until next time, that's a wrap, guys. Continue going out there and making impact and income, being a legal leader. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There is a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.